Before I get started, I'd just like to say it's great having this many people, back in person after the long dark years of the COVIDs. And we had fun at Wando's Tuesday night with our traditional beer and bacon. And as we were there, more people joined as the night went on from the HTC23 family. We didn't quite make it to a Wisconsin family pack of beer. But I have full confidence that that next year we'll be back to family pack type sizes. So HTCSS is supported or is released in essentially two series: the LTS long-term support releases, which is only bug fixes, and the feature releases, which has bug fixes and also new features. So just by show of hands, who here runs the feature release? Okay, who runs the LTS release? Who doesn't want to run any of it? Okay. Dave. All right. So the versioning, you have a major number, a minor number, and an update number. And basically, whenever the major number changes, which is approximately once a year, that means a new LTS series comes out. And we're just about at that time. The end of next month, late August, early September is when we expect version 10, the current feature release, to become the new stable release, LTS release, version 11. But as we talked about on Tuesday in Brian Lynn's talk, it's actually not going to be 11, it's going to be 23. And why have this release versioning change? Because we want to synchronize both support timeframes and major release cycles with OSG software. I mean, we're doing more than just synchronizing the schedules. We're actually having the exact same binaries. So, the OSG software is no longer going to recompile HTCSS. They're literally going to take the same binaries. It's actually simplified. There'll be a new major version each summer, once a year. The major version number is going to be the year of the release. So this, coming out in a month or so will be version 23 and 24. And as far as support, the two most recent LTS series will be supported. So when 25 comes out, that means you got 24 and 25 supported. When 26 comes out, you got 25 and 26 supported. And the HTCondor CE, which is currently switched from version 5 to version 6, that version number is going to change to reflect the HTCSS version number 2, which will simplify things. So the TLDR of all of this is one, don't freak out and think you're David Bowie and you just zone 10 years of your life when all of a sudden next month is HTCSS 23. You're just fine. And the other TLDR is the support timeframe for the LTS version is actually longer. It used to be about a year and a half. Now the long-term support is a little longer. It's basically going to be 2 years. So we've been changing terminology a lot, kind of cleaning it all up as we've been going along. You've heard HTCondor is now the HTCondor Software Suite with the access point, the execution point, central manager, and the CE. So we're cleaning it up. It's difficult for grizzled veterans like myself, but hopefully it makes more sense to newcomers and more accurately reflects things. Even in the CHTC, we do find it difficult. We have a swear jar, and there's a lot of money going in there every time someone says open science grid. Oh, you better throw a quarter in the swear jar. So to help out with this, if you go to the 1,000-page manual, it's now 1,010 pages because we added a glossary. So this is on page 791. So since HTCondor Week last year, between HTCondor Week 22 and HTC23, there were 22 releases incorporating 140 enhancements, 160 bug fixes. So buckle in your seatbelts. I have, a whopping 13 minutes left to go through them. So we're going to go at a breakneck speed. Actually, we're not going to go through all of them. You can do that all on your own by going to the detailed notes section of the website, and we're pretty fastidious about keeping the version history up to date. But I am going to talk about kind of what's cooking in the Condor kitchen. So yesterday in the hot takes tournament, the winner ended up being user experience is what won that the bracket. So let's start out talking about some user experience pieces that are cooking at the access point. So we have an evolving new command line interface, HTCondor, and then a noun and a verb. So this is very much like Docker, you know, has this type of interface, and Git has this kind of interface. This is implemented in Python, so we can rapidly change it, rapidly prototype it. We do something, the research computing facilitators say, no, this is confusing to people. We can quickly change it. It also makes it easy to take contributions from other people, so you don't have to mess around on the C++ guts. Don't worry, the legacy tools, Condor Q, Condor Submit, Condor History, they are going no place. They aren't going to be taken away. The new tools just allow us to have a fresh start and try to get at some of these user experience issues. So one thing you'll notice is there's HTCondor job status versus job set status. And the idea here is if you do a job status, you can only give one job ID. It is to get the status on a single job. You want to see the status on a pile of jobs, you use the job set status. And why is this interesting? Well, let's take a look at Condor Q. If you give it one job ID, this is the output you get. You get basically one line of some information that maybe is useful, but it's really Condor Q has been designed to show you many jobs all at once, which is why it tries to condense everything down to one line. So what if you really want the details about this one job? You can do Condor Q minus L for long, and you will get about 150 or so attributes about the job, which has everything you could possibly want to know if you don't shower and drink Mountain Dew. If you do shower, then you know which of these attributes are intended for you to look at versus which are operational versus which are, you have no idea. On the other hand, if you run the new noun verb HTCondor job status, you will see something like this, where the attributes that are relevant to most users that shower are kind of displayed there. It's Python, so we can rapidly adapt it. In fact, this really doesn't exist because this was an idea that some folks at this conference gave the day before yesterday. I think it's a great idea. So thus it's in the slide, and we'll work on it. So I call this kind of output Zork style output. It's just kind of a little story about your job. You're north of a cabin. There's a mailbox with a letter in it. This and that. I'm Joe and Cole. Probably, this is way before your time. You probably think I'm Oregon Trail. All right, fine. What about Dagman? HTCondor DAG status. Give information, hopefully, that a user is actually looking for, right? About what's going on with their day. What about this annex create command? And for that one, this is the ability to create an annex or a bunch of execution points, submit them to Slurm at HPC sites around the country so that you can use your HPC, for instance, access allocations as part of your workflow. There is a demo video up on YouTube from Todd Miller, and I suggest you take a look at that. And there's what's this event log now? So a quick bypass, there's lots of job information that users and administrators can get, for instance, from the Condor history file, right? There's job histories on the AP, there's history files on the EP about what ran, but there's some three issues with Condor history. One, it only gives information about jobs that have already left the queue and completed. Okay, what if your job is in an infinite loop and it's still stuck running somewhere in the queue? Two, The Condor history file is a flat file. There's no index. It can be pretty slow, right? And 3, the history file is about the last instance the job ran. What if the job ran, got preempted, the job ran, got preempted, the job ran, got preempted, right? The history file might have a count of how many times it restarted, but you're maybe missing details. Now the index, no index property, you can use Condor add stash and shove all of your history files into an Elasticsearch database. And that's great. And we do that. And I heard James is doing that for IGWIN. It's a great tool, but it requires we have an Elasticsearch set up and you know how to query Elasticsearch and whatnot, which maybe a user that just installed an AP isn't going to do. So there's different info inside of the job event log. If you put log equals file name in your submit file, you get something that looks like this. And this is basically, the news. Anytime something happens new to your job, it emits an event in the event log. And we added in version 10.6 of Condor some additional attributes that get slapped on to the execute event in the job log that we think will really help with debugging. However, it's just these 5. You can't expand it. There's no configuration. It's that way, and you're going to like it. And of course, I'm lying. There's a knob to customize it. So if you put in your job submit file, you can say ulog execute adders and then give it an attribute from the slot. Then what happens is that will also be emitted into your event log. And it appears in all the event logs. So there's an event log for your specific job or workflow that you specify in your submit file. If you're using Dagman, there's an event log that Dagman creates that's sitting there. And your AP can have an event log for every job that goes through that AP. So now we're getting back to what is HTCondor event log? Well, you do HTCondor event log read as the verb, and you give it the name of your file. And it can give you interesting information parsed out of that event log. Now, where it gets really interesting is you can do grouping or with a group by option to event log read. And here we're saying, well, why don't we group all the events by the OS pool guidance site? And you can see, right here, oh, there's failures over on this site, and the other sites are good. So this could be a useful way for users to see what's going on. Max is the guy that's been working on this. He's a student intern with us this summer. Max, are you here somewhere? There he is. So if you have further ideas for this, talk to Max. Other enhancements for the user, the submit file plus syntax to insert an attribute into the job ad. Now, as an AP administrator, you can kind of promote those to first class, so you don't have to teach users about when to use the plus sign and when to use double quotes and when to not use double quotes, yada, yada, yada. There's also job submit templates. So if you, as the AP administrator, you're like, well, I always want users to submit MATLAB jobs in this specific way using this specific template, you can define that, and then your users can just put in their submit file, use template MATLAB and the name of their M file. We improved for the user experience a lot of error propagation pieces. That one also, error propagation did pretty good in the HTC hot takes yesterday. So here's an example of how it looks in version 10.0. If there's a problem with with transferring files, the slot said that the starter said that the shadow said that something happened. Users are like, what the heck's a starter, a shadow, or this or that, and nobody knows. And the new message is much more soap worthy, shower worthy, should we say? I don't know. Clean. That's better. That's better. Thank you. Clean. File transfer enhancements. I like this one. You can put in your submit file, preserve relative paths instead of flattening the directory in your job sandbox. Now you can actually keep relative paths in your job sandbox. I like that one. OSDF, the file transfer client for OSDF, comes out of the box with HTCSS, so you don't have to install extra things. No talk about the access point is complete without talking about Dagman. And there's a spiffy new feature in DAGman that Cole talked about yesterday, which allows you to save DAG process, save the state of your DAG inside the DAG file at any point, essentially save points. Like in a video game, you can restore after your DAG dies, you can resurrect it. And of course, administrators, we can't forget about them. There is, the Get HTCondor tool, which allows you to install a secure, tokenized secure pool in less than 5 minutes. I did that in a live video. You basically cut and paste, and there's an administrator quick start guide. How about the execution point? So, partitionable slots. Who here uses partitionable slots on their execution points? Seems like most people. So this is a little nerdy, but for those of you running pools, you probably know that the partitionable slot is never claimed. And this constrains the ability of the access point to plan how it's going to run things. Okay, so imagine in your access point, maybe the access point sees 4 1-core jobs that are high priority, followed by 1 4-core job. As soon as it breaks up that partitionable slot into 4 1-core slots, at that point, it has no ability to combine them back into 1 4-core slot. It has to, because anything that, as soon as a D slot goes away, it goes back to the central manager, which may turn around and give it to a different schedule, right, or a different user. So the access point is really constrained. And what we have cooking in the kitchen now is the ability to claim a P slot by an AP. And this will open the doors for improved resource management. So the example I gave, if it had 4 1-core jobs, the AP could understand, oh, I've got this 4-core job I want to run. It could let those resources accumulate and then start the 4-core job without the need for a defrag policy, right? We talked a lot yesterday. There was a tutorial on containers and container universe, and we made a lot of improvements in the past several months where the EP does a lot of testing of the container runtime before actually launching the container. This is to try to distinguish, is the problem with the actual user's job, or is the problem something with the container runtime environment? Now, what happens if the EP can't find a container runtime at all on the machine? So it's a machine, there's no Docker, there's no Apptainer, nothing's installed. Well, it just advertises that I can't take any container universe jobs. That's life, which got me thinking. Well, apparently the clicker thinks I'm done. Oh, there we go. It skipped a bunch. Got me thinking. Back to Tim Cartwright's talk from Monday or Tuesday? The days blur. Where all the users that join the OS pool are told, well, you might want to install a bunch of additional stuff on your execute nodes. And one of the things we suggest you install is Apptainer. Starting with Apptainer 1.11, is it? 1.1, too many ones. 1.1, thanks to much hard work by Dave Dykstra. So Dave, wave your hand. We think now Apptainer really no longer requires root, right? If you have user namespaces going on, which many people do, a glide-in with no root privileges should be able to essentially install and use Apptainer. So the glide-in could just bring a container runtime with it. This also has the nice situation that if you install an EP, it can run containers, right? Nobody has to do any extra work or install additional packages. GPU scheduling. There was a tutorial yesterday. We detected the GPU devices. We can now deal with heterogeneous GPU devices in one server. And what's on the radar now is running concurrent, jobs that need GPUs, more than one job on the same GPU device. And the way this is going to work is when you submit a job set, you can say in this job set, I can use 2 jobs per GPU device or 3 jobs per GPU device. And of course, it's Condor, so it'll be a class add expression. So you could say stuff like, I can use the slot GPU memory divided by how much memory I think my job uses. And that's the concurrency I can use. A common scenario, once you have a machine full of GPUs, is you're like, I want this machine to have a preference for running GPU jobs, and then maybe backfill with CPU jobs if nobody wants to use the GPU, but these GPUs are expensive, so I want them to be, I want their utilization to be high. And what a lot of places, especially, this is easy if you're using static slots. If you're using partitionable slots, you have to do the Bologna batch setup. Does anybody know what I'm talking about when I say Bologna batch? Yeah, a few people. Devised by Peter Kavaris when he was in Bologna. It works, it's really complicated. So we have now made a first class backfill slot. So the idea is you have your machine with 8 GPUs and 8 CPU cores. That's your primary slot. You can say this will only take GPU jobs. You have essentially a shadow slot with resources that says I'll take backfill jobs only when those resources aren't really being used by my primary slot. And backfill slots have a special attribute. One, they're labeled as backfill. Backfill equals true, so you know when you're looking at them or matching with them. But they'll also say if there's any resources in conflict, like I'm running out of CPU cores, or I'm running out of memory, or I'm running out of GPUs. And that allows you to specify a policy. Here's an example where you can backfill your GPU server with CPU jobs, and the CPU jobs will get preempted off if there's any contention from your GPU jobs. Now you can put in the assembly language if you are not quite as clean as maybe others. If you're more clean, we will likely just kind of bundle up a lot of this class add assembly code, policy code into like a one-liner, like use feature or preferred GPU jobs or something like this. We're working on better disk space management on the execution point, where we will actually create an ephemeral file system for the job, which will reserve the space on the execute point that the job needs. It also allows it to be cleaned up much faster. Who here has noticed that their Condor job gets renamed to condorexec.exe and have been annoyed by it? Yeah, the annoyance level finally got to the point where, was it Greg? Jamie, one of those guys over there just. Yeah, right. So we finally just got rid of that. We improved what happens when the out of memory killer wants to kill things, but my talk is soon to be killed because I'm running out of time. So you can talk to me if you want details on that. Improvements cooking for the CE. We're working on adding a dashboard to the HTCondor CE. So you just point your browser at it and you'd be able to answer questions like at this site, how many glidins are there, how many are active, what projects are using it. And we made improvements to the CE for error detection, right? Is a CE failing because it can't reach the Slurm front end node? Is it failing because it can reach the node, but it can't use Slurm because the name of the queue's changed? All this stuff is kind of broken down and then advertised into the collector. And this is partially the outcome of Path operating 50, 60, 70 hosted CEs, something like this. We needed to improve it for our own work. Data management enhancements. I am not even going to touch that because the talk yesterday I thought was fantastic. So just see Matt and Justin's talk. And we added some OS and architectures, of course, as we always do as we get near a new long-term release. Enterprise Linux 8 for both Intel, ARM, and PowerPC. And we finally completed the full port to Enterprise Linux 9, which required us adopting to cgroups v2 and OpenSSL 3, but that's finally all done. So there's Enterprise Linux 9 for Intel and ARM. Of course, the future of Enterprise Linux, now that IBM/Red Hat has decided to be mean, is questionable, but we have it for now, and that's it.